Oh, hey! I don't know how to sign on to these things without sounding like an idiot. Welcome to The Story of, a podcast about people and events that I find interesting. My name's Reagan Snyder, and I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to tell you the story about an event that could have been great. For some people, it was terrible. For others, it was hilarious. It was sometimes referred to as the Hunger Games for rich millennials. That's right, baby. I'm talking about Fyre Festival. It all starts with a guy named Billy McFarland. Billy was born in 1991, and he was raised in Millburn, New Jersey by parents who were real estate developers. Billy always had entrepreneurship. Is that a word? Billy always had entrepreneurial blood. He claims that in second grade, he would charge his classmates $1 to fix their broken crayons. Except in one of the documentaries about this that he's in, he says crayons. Oh, that's just not how you say it. It's crayons. Color me skeptical with some broken crayons. He also said that when he was in fifth grade, he had his first small business. It was a web posting company, and he had 3 people working for him full-time in India. That seems red flaggy. That seems like a lie. But who am I? I don't know. What do I know? He told the New York Times that when he was 13, he founded an online sourcing startup to connect clients with web designers. After high school, he went to Bucknell University to study computer engineering, but he decided it just wasn't for him and he dropped out his freshman year. Billy was kind of nerdy, very charismatic, and he seemed very trustworthy. And he must have, because he conducted himself well enough in front of investors that they trusted him with their money. They would go on to invest lots and lots of money with Billy. He's been said to be the world's greatest salesman and that he can convince anyone of anything. Back before he got too crazy with things, he started Spling, which was a content sharing platform. I believe that fizzled out pretty quickly. It's not something I've ever heard of, and I don't think it's up and running as we speak. When Billy was 22, he started Magnesis in August of 2013. Magnesis was an elite club for millennials in New York. It was a $250 annual fee, and it would give them access to the hottest dinner parties, clubs, art shows, lectures. They would get discounts on exclusive events and hotels, concierge services for last-minute dinner reservations and sold-out event tickets. They would have access to the Magnesis townhouse just to hang out in if they wanted. They had access to private drivers, and they had invitations to private events hosted by Magnesis. If you were a Magnesis member, you got this really awesome card. It looked like a credit card, but it wasn't. It was made of metal. It was all black, so it was really sleek looking, and it was like your membership card. It could be used in place of your debit card, but it wasn't a credit card. So it was just like a cool little thing, if you were part of Magnesis. Magnesis was based out of a townhouse that they rented in the West Village, and they claim that in December of 2013, so just a couple months later, they had 500 members. They also claimed that they were receiving over 100 applications a day, but the acceptance rate was only 15 to 20%. So what did you have to do to get into this super exclusive club for millennials? Well, you had to fill out an application. And on the application, you were asked questions like, what are your favorite restaurants in New York City? What do you like to do for fun? And if the team liked your application, you would get a phone interview. So basically, if this team thought you were cool enough, you were in. It was like getting your very own chair at the cool table at lunch in high school. In 2015, the owner of the townhouse that they were renting out of filed a lawsuit. He was saying that Billy trashed the building, and Billy denied it. And that was just kind of the first of a series of unfortunate events. The case settled in 2016, and they relocated to the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan. And by that year, 2016, it was operating in both New York City and Chicago. And then it would expand to Washington and San Francisco by 2017. But in 2016, just 3 years after the launch, members were starting to complain. They weren't very happy because Billy wasn't coming through on some of his promises. The members were getting hit with surprise charges. They weren't receiving tickets on time, and access to certain events were revoked. When all of this was brought to Billy's attention, he just blamed it on the growth of the company. So Magnesis was just, as soon as it was getting started, it was going south. Fast forward a bit, Billy's 25 now, and he has this grand new idea for an app called Fyre Media Inc. He came up with it after he had some trouble trying to book Ja Rule for an event. After his trouble and losing a little bit of money, he thought up Fyre Media Inc. that would serve as the middleman for people trying to book artists for events. So they could go on this app, book who they wanted, cut out all the drama. It was going to be great. Even Ja Rule was in on it. He wanted to work with Billy on this. They even had some investors buy a $1.2 million stake in Fyre Media. And they were like, you know what? We need to promote this. And it needs to be big. So that's where the idea for Fyre Festival was born. It was going to be this amazing, huge luxury festival to promote the app. It would take place over the course of 2 weekends. And it was just going to be the best thing ever. Before they really even did any of the groundwork, they put together a promo video, and it was beautiful. It looked so cool. It looked like it was going to be the most amazing, had to be there festival ever. The promo video had images of clear blue water, top models like Gigi Hadid, Emily Ratajkowski, Hailey Baldwin. There were yachts and private jets. Oh my gosh. Who wouldn't want to go? Am I right? Looks awesome. Influencers were paid to post an orange tile on a specific day and time with the hashtag Fyre Festival to promote it. Jerry Media was in charge of promotion, and this was their idea, to kind of break up the monotony of everybody's feed with this orange tile so that people were like, wait, what is this? Oh, what is this? Everybody's posting it. Everybody's talking about it. Kendall Jenner was even talking about it. For $275,000. They seriously paid Kendall Jenner $275,000 to post an orange square on her Instagram. So it was being marketed as this luxury music festival in the Bahamas. There were going to be celebrity chefs, private jets, yachts, beachfront villas. There were going to be awesome artists there. Blink-182 was signed on, Major Lazer, Migos. And these packages that were all-inclusive went from anywhere from $4,000 to $250,000 per person. Depending on which ticket you got, you would have kind of this glamping situation. You know what glamping is, right? It's glamorous camping. And those were, I believe, the lower tier tickets. The higher the ticket costs, the more you got, obviously. And that would have private villas, exclusive VIP experiences. This is what was listed on their site. Expedited flights and check-ins, access to the Fire Starters artist area, where you could party with artists, actors, influencers, models, comedians. There would be an open bar. These villas, because it was on a private island, they were all beachfront. You would be invited to artist and talent-only events, and you would get to have dinner with one performer. The highest ticket was $250,000, and that was to include a private yacht with an onboard chef. Within 48 hours, 95% of the tickets were sold, and they were getting off to a good start, except they hadn't planned anything yet. The estimated cost was going to be $38 million to pull off this event that was taking place over 2 weekends. It was to be held on Norman's Cay, which was a deserted island with ties to the Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar. You know the one. And upon leasing the island, Billy was told, listen, have your party here. That's fine. Don't mention Pablo Escobar. Don't mention him at all. And he's like, okay. But then he did it anyway. That was like the first thing he put on his promotional video. If you haven't seen the video, I think it's up on YouTube. You can watch it, Google it, do whatever if you want to see it. But you'll see Pablo Escobar. First thing he mentions. So the owners were like, okay, well, you did what we told you not to do, so never mind, and gave their money back to him, kicked him off the island. The timeline's a little bit fuzzy. I read a few different things, but we're talking months here. Like, he had months, just a few months to plan this versus 12 months to 18 months, which is normal. I mean, it's a big event and there's a lot of money involved. So, you need more than just a few months to plan something this big. So they start island scouting again, and they happen upon Great Exuma, which was not a private island, but that's what they advertised. So instead of just coming clean and saying, oh, never mind, we're doing it at this island now, they photoshopped the picture to make it look like a private island. The site that they were planning on doing this festival on was an abandoned development site. It was not equipped for a small party, let alone a big festival at all. One of the packages came with a villa, so they had to figure out how they were going to house these guests. Not just even one guest, not even just one villa, which would take quite some time and money and effort to put together, but 500. And they couldn't just book local hotels because the weekend that they were throwing this festival was the same weekend of the National Regatta, which was one of the busiest weekends on this island. It was like, the population doubles in size. It's like Super Bowl for this island. The hotels and houses and all accommodations are booked months in advance. So that's off the table. They can't even count on that. At this point, they had sold tickets to 5,000 people. And they oversold the lodge packages, which were the glamping packages. There were 250 influencers who were told that they would get housing for free. They were promised a 1-bedroom, 3-person villa on the beach for making one post. But the villas, again, didn't exist. Production at this point was insisting that they at least cut out the people who weren't paying. But Billy was like, no, it'll be fine. Meanwhile, Calvin Wells, who is a venture capitalist, saw the buzz about Fyre Festival, and he saw that some of the bands that he works with were listed as talent for the event. So he called the agents, and he was confused. And the agents told him that they were promised by production of Fyre Festival that they would be paid double their market value, but that they hadn't received any money yet. That was enough of a red flag for Calvin. And he started to investigate the whole situation. And he came to realize that they had rented part of the island and photoshopped the surrounding areas to make it look like a deserted island. That was enough for him to go and make this Twitter account called Fyre Fraud to try to warn people what was going on. He even flew out and started taking pictures of the site, and the luxury villas that they had been promoting were just leftover hurricane tents from Hurricane Matthew. So time is closing in on them. They're trying to get all of these tents up because they have people coming pretty soon. They've got to have somewhere to stay. So they enlisted hundreds of locals and promised to pay them after the festival for their help in setting up these tents. They still had to book artists, and Billy was trying to find ways to get money and make payments all in one day. So he would spend money and then figure out how to get more to keep the whole thing going. He was good at convincing investors because he would just lie, and he seemed believable. This issue went from a few $1,000s a day to millions a day. He would have to get this money in by a certain time and pay it out by a certain time before banks and things closed. So production team is starting to freak out, and they're pushing Billy to post actual photos of the actual site, because if you went on to their Instagram or their website or wherever, there were no actual pictures of where people would be. It was just like promotional images. And Billy, he wouldn't do it, and he would fire people who disagreed with him sometimes. So money obviously is going in and out like crazy. He's trying to find new ways to get more money to keep this thing going. And at this point, he's just kind of screwed, So I think he was like, well, I have to make it happen now because I've put so much money into it and people have invested so much money. So he gets the idea to make the event a cashless event. Attendees are getting updates via email at this point. And they get this email that they're going to have something called the Fyre Band. And they asked everyone to preload money for their weekend onto this Fyre Band. The Fyre Band was just like this digital bracelet, and that they could scan it or whatever, use that in place of cash or cards. They also recommended that people load 300 to 500 per day that they would be there. So if they're there 2 days, 3 days, it would be $1,000, $1,500. And production members were like, wait, what? No, this is crazy. This is not a good idea. The internet on the island is not reliable. This is a terrible idea. But of course, Billy went forward with it anyway. And after sending out that email and setting up fire bans, they received more than $700,000 in funds on these wristbands. Around this time, people who were going to be in attendance were getting suspicious. They would ask questions through email or on the official social media of Fyre Festival, and their comments would get deleted, or their emails would bounce back, or they would go unresponded. The people behind Fyre Festival even turned off commenting. So if that's not a huge red flag, I don't know what is. 2 weeks before the event, Billy fired catering over the phone because he realized he didn't have enough money to pay for him. I'd read that the original contract was for $6 million, and it was going to be with Star Catering Group. But at this point, he had $1 million for the budget for food. I don't know where, because it sounds like he's negative, lots and lots of money. But investors were told that they would be refunded if the festival was canceled. But Billy had already spent so much money trying to put this event on that his hands were tied. He was in trouble either way. If he falls, everyone else is going to go down with them, I guess. Somehow, organizers rushed to borrow another $7 million to keep trying to put the festival on. And enter Andy King. Andy King was on the Netflix documentary, which was called Fyre, the greatest party that never happened. There were 4 18-wheeler trucks filled with Evian water. And before they would release the water, they wanted the bill to be paid in cash. And that bill was $175,000. So Andy gets a call from Billy, and Billy asks him to take one for the team. He, for real, asked Andy to go do some sexual favors to get this water released. And Andy, bless his heart, he was going to do it. But the head of customs was like, it's okay. Here's the water. Just make sure we get paid. So, they got their water. At least nobody's going to go thirsty. But they don't have enough beds for everybody at this point. And we're at the day before the festival, the day before everybody's supposed to arrive. Blink-182 canceled the day before. They put out a tweet or something on social media, and they said that they weren't confident that they'd have what they need to put on a quality show. So they were out. The night before people started to arrive, there was a big old thunderstorm. So everything that they had done up to that point was just ruined. I mean, the universe was like, People started boarding their planes, but they were not private jets as had been advertised. They were commercial planes with the Fyre logo slapped on them. I think they probably just thought it was funny and went forth with their weekend. They were still going to have a good weekend. So people are flying in. Billy closed down the campsite where they were supposed to be staying, and he sent guests to a nearby restaurant with an open bar to buy him more time to salvage the site the best he could. And, they're just liquoring people up. And at first, the guests thought that it was part of the experience and that, just a great kickoff to a great weekend. This is going to be so much fun. But after a while, they got a little suspicious and started asking questions. They were finally loaded onto these school buses that took them to the site. And that's where the jig was up. It became clear what was going on. So they're at the headquarters, and they stood around for hours, still being served alcohol. Alcohol fixes everything. Let's just pour some more liquor down their throat. Maybe they'll stop asking questions. But people are super confused, and they're starting to freak out. And then it was starting to get dark. Nothing was in order. They didn't even know where they were staying. They didn't have their stuff. They're stuck on this island with nothing. So finally, their luggage is brought out in this big trucking container, and somebody came out and just told everybody to grab their bag. No rhyme or reason, no organization, none of that. Just, here's everybody's bag, come find yours. Then Billy emerges, and he tells anybody who ordered a villa to go grab a tent. It was a free-for-all. Hope you find one. Good luck. May the odds be ever in your favor. Some people had nowhere to stay. And like I said earlier, the resorts nearby were sold out because of this regatta. A lot of the mattresses were wet from the rain. So, what are these people missing out on, really? The people that didn't make it to a tent. There were no lights. The campground was just kind of eerie. All of the tents were full, but only 1/3 of the guests were there so far. Either somebody doesn't know how to do math or time just ran out on them. They even went so far as to lay down carpet in the tents, but even that was soaking wet. Ooh, and then this is my favorite part. The food. Remember the gourmet food that they were going to have all weekend? Well, they were served bread with cheese and a small salad, if it could really even be called that, in a styrofoam container. And there's an infamous tweet about it. If you Google it, you can find it if you haven't seen it. And so people at this point are tweeting. Word got out that it was a complete disaster. Artists started canceling, and Andy said that he saw Billy pacing back and forth on the terrace crying at one point. And this was the first time anyone had seen his positive demeanor crack. He was just holding it together as long as he could. So that's when they officially came out and said that Fyre Festival was canceled. Ja Rule came out and said that it wasn't his fault, but he was going to take responsibility. Call me crazy, but I don't think that's how you take responsibility for something. Production started to issue a statement saying that due to circumstances beyond their control, the infrastructure wasn't in place and they were arranging charters to get guests back to Miami. We all know this was in their control. There weren't enough planes to take everyone back, so people were literally locked in the airport without food, water, or air conditioning. I don't know why they were locked in there, but that gives me claustrophobia and anxiety. And then the locals who were setting up the tents, they were coming around demanding to be paid, as they should have. They did work, they were promised that they would be paid, and they wanted to see the money. And it was chaos. I read that the locals were starting to put hits out on people and hold them hostage and get ransom. Crap's hitting the fan, and Billy's nowhere to be seen. Nobody can find him. The locals were never paid, and the restaurant who provided food was never paid either. Marianne Roll and her husband were the owners of the restaurant that was feeding everybody. The restaurant was called Exuma Point Bar and Grill. They were catering 1,000 meals per day, and they had to use $50,000 of their own savings during this weekend just to make sure that people were being fed. And she was never paid back for it. So word gets out about this, and kind strangers across the world wanted to help. She had set up a GoFundMe page. It was shared across the internet. Her goal was $123,000, and over $239,000 was raised. Fyre Festival's production issued another statement to the guests apologizing and linking a form for a refund. And they offered a complimentary ticket for Fyre Festival 2018, which, as we know now, never happened. And Billy was arrested just months after the festival was supposed to go down. Billy frauded investors based on how well Fyre Media was doing. He hyped it up way more than he should have. He told investors that they booked Drake for $100,000, which was a lie. He told them he had $1.5 million in offers. He doctored a document to make it look like there was nearly $35 million in offers, which there wasn't. He told them that he was given an island worth $8 million. He claimed that he had $2 million in Facebook stocks, when in reality he only had 1,500. Let's go back to Magnesis really quick. He was selling things that he didn't have. Magnesis members would buy tickets to a concert, for instance, and Billy would have to hustle to figure out how to get these tickets to the Magnesis member. So he didn't even have these things on hand that he was selling. And so he ended up racking up his Fyre Amex card to pay for these things. He left $150,000 of outstanding bills on his friend/associate's personal credit card over the festival. He allegedly owes $250,000 to the local workers who helped set up tents. He was let out on a $300,000 bail, and he claimed that he's broke, and he moved back in with his mommy and daddy. Listen, there's no shame with living with your parents unless you're Billy McFarland and just scammed people out of millions. And during this time, he decided that it would be a good idea to defraud more people out of thousands. Billy reached out to a guy named Frank Tribble. He was this kid in his early 20s. He wanted him to be the face of his new company called NYC VIP Access because he couldn't be the face of his own business because of Fyre Festival crap. They started targeting guests from the Fyre Festival through email, maybe even phone calls, I'm not sure. And they would offer them tickets to things like Burning Man, the Met Gala, meet and greets with celebrities like Taylor Swift, private flights, and tickets to the Victoria's Secret fashion show. But Met Gala tickets can't be purchased, and anyone who goes to the gala is approved by Anna Wintour in advance. Taylor Swift doesn't do meet and greets. The Burning Man hadn't started selling tickets yet at this point, and the Victoria's Secret show hadn't even been cast. 15 more people were scammed out of $100,000 in total. Billy and Ja Rule were sued for $100 million in a class action lawsuit. And as of 2021, 277 attendees were to be paid back $7,220 after a settlement was reached. For some reason, Ja Rule didn't face any charges or arrest. He still claimed it wasn't his fault. And Jerry Media, who was in charge of promoting Fyre Festival, claimed that they were misled by Billy and that he still owes them money, which I believe. I am sure they weren't in trying to scam people. They were just doing their job. I'm not sure if they've been paid since then. This information was as of 2019. So all in all, Billy defrauded investors of more than $25 million. In March of 2018, Billy admitted that he forged financial documents to gain investors, and he led people to believe that Fyre Media had $4.5 million in cash and $18 million in accounts receivable, but it actually had less than $40,000 in cash. Instead of putting that investment money into Fyre Media, he would use the money to live this lavish lifestyle, trying the whole fake it till you make it thing. Billy was charged on multiple accounts of fraud and sentenced to 6 years in federal prison on October 11th, 2018. In April of 2020, he requested compassionate release to avoid catching COVID since he was asthmatic, but they denied him. And 3 months later, he tested positive for COVID. As of now, Billy still sits in prison. He's scheduled to be released on August 30th of 2023. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure today. I'm so grateful for you. If you want to reach me, you can do so on my Instagram. If you have an idea for an episode, I would love to hear it. Please DM me. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I will see you later.